So you've had every possible, you played every possible role in real life. How did you get to that concept, both as the title, A Life in Parts, and how this worked out?
I must give credit to my editor, Shannon Welch, who brilliantly came up with that title as we were assembling the book. She said, it's all about the characters that you've played in your life, the roles that you've had. And so she came up with the title, and I thought that fits perfectly. But when I first started, I didn't know if I could do this, and because you haven't read it yet, maybe you don't know yet if I can do this. You'll tell me, I'm sure. I had a great time doing it. These are stories from my life that I've been telling all of my life, and I enjoy that. I enjoy being a storyteller, and I enjoy receiving the story, too. So, that's probably our first memory, isn't it? When, dragging a book to your parents' lap and sitting there and being told a story. And whether you're 2 or 92, that doesn't change. You always want to be told a story. And because they were already short stories in my head, these incidents, these seminal moments in my life that really illuminated who I was and where I was going and what direction, I thought, well, what if I just put those short stories, a beginning, middle, and end, down there, and I wouldn't have to look at a blank screen knowing that I had to fill 275 pages or whatever it is. So I just wrote in that manner, just short story after short story, and kept submitting it. I didn't even write with the intent of knowing the chronology of it yet, So I just kept submitting these stories, and she kept saying, "Good, keep them coming, keep them coming." And I'd write on airplanes, and any place that I could find a little kind of quiet, and just out it comes.
It feels like that. Just in conversations you would tell at dinner, or some of them are kind of entertaining, like you would tell like on a talk show or something. But others are things that I felt like, I wonder if he's ever told anybody these except like a therapist, or because they're very really revealing, and they go to a soulful place and describe epiphanies. And big moments of transition that weren't necessarily always funny. Some of them are really dark. We're going to roll a clip from Breaking Bad here in a second, and I wanted to lead up to that. I wanted to talk about one of the most moving stories that I experienced in reading the book, which was the one you start with, and at the beginning of the book, related to that scene where you walk in and Jesse's girlfriend has essentially almost OD'd, and the experience. Would you talk a little bit about what that was like and how that moment went?
Yeah, there are probably scores of actors out here, and that what we do is to allow our real life experiences to be accessible to us, so that when your character requires a certain emotion, you can reach into the well and pull it out. That's what we have to do. We have to be vulnerable and susceptible to that, and allow ourselves to feel not just the good qualities of who you are, joy, love, surprise, glee, but also the negative aspects of it, anger, resentment, jealousy, all those things. And so when I was looking at that scene, I realized that there was the hesitation and ultimately the act of omission that he allows this young woman to die. And
are you guys all familiar with the scene we're talking about? Yeah. It's one of the most amazing scenes in television. So,
well, I like to think about what is possible, what could happen in any given scene, where it could go, and write some notes and write some ideas that sort of plant the seed in my head about what is available during the scene, and it could be wide-ranging. It could be 7, 8, 10 different specific emotions, and then I let it go and forget about it. But by doing the homework before, it's like you're shown what's possible and then close it up, because you don't want to be consciously thinking, okay, now here comes the guilt, and now after the guilt, I'm going to go with smugness. And then I don't like to do that, because then it's too robotic, and you don't have that sense of surprise when you have a rush of emotion that comes up that even surprises you. And then what happened in this particular scene is that I was thinking the possibility, and when I was writing my notes, one of the reasons I wrote down, like reasons to save her, reasons to let her die, and I was writing both of those in just stream of consciousness. And one of the reasons to save her was she's someone's daughter. She's just a young woman, you know. It could be my daughter if her age is right. And writing those things out. And when we were shooting it and watching her choke to death on her own vomit, spoiler alert for those who haven't, there is a vomit choking scene in. So when that was happening, I allowed myself to be open to whatever was going to come up, and if it didn't come up, I don't want to force it. We'll do another take and maybe talk to the director and see what other emotions we can possibly explore. But I just wanted to be open to it. And what happened is that I'm seeing this beautiful actress, Kristen Ritter, giving her all off camera for me, and then almost like a hallucinogenic moment, her face was replaced with the face of my real daughter, Taylor. And I saw my daughter choking to death on her own vomit, and that was, I even, you know, thinking about it now, it's hard to talk about, because if you're a parent, you know it's the worst thing you could ever imagine, something happening to your child.
Did that just come? It just happened.
It just happened. But I think because I wrote, oh, she could be my daughter, you know, I just from an objective viewpoint and thought that, oh, that could happen, and I kind of stayed away from it. And then when you're in it, who knows what happens? So that happened, and afterward, I broke down. I was weeping, and Anna Gunn was comforting me, and our DP Michael Slovis was comforting me, and and you need those people who are compassionate and want to embrace you for going there. And I had no intention, but that's what happened, and and actors will know this, and that's the risk that acting does, is that you have to be willing to go to places that you really don't want to go from time to time, and that's the
sometimes
cost.
Recognize that it might just overcome you in a way you had no idea was going to happen, and trust that your cast members, your crew, your director will go with it, you know, and actually recognize how unscripted in a way it was. I mean, that moment it was riveting and unforgettable, and I'm sure it was because you got to this place.
Interesting.
I love how you described the family of that shoot too, for all those years. The Breaking Bad people there's another place in the book where you talk about the camera operator. I think it's as you're looking at the baby, right? And the camera operator was shaking.
Yeah.
He couldn't barely hold the shot. And to know that the crew is not just making a show, they're completely
invested, and we are part of a team. And as you well know, and as you run your sets, you give respect to every department, and you embrace them for their artistry, and you encourage them to bring it out. So the more invested every crew member is, incrementally the whole production is lifted, and you feel it, and you feel the improvement that it is, you know.
One of the delicious parts about reading this is the sense of humor, the sense of irony that you get to. And there were a lot of stories about relationships you've had in the course of your life. And they overlap with some of your acting experiences. One of my favorite stories that I enjoyed so much was after you had kind of gotten to that epiphany that you were not going to become a policeman through the training you had as a police explorer. And you went on this epic motorcycle ride with your brother, which again I told you I very much related with as a way to find yourself and find something. And after a long storm, trapped in I think it was in Florida, was it?
No, it was the Blue Ridge Parkway in Virginia.
And first tell me what happened on that, at that moment you were
well, back in, let me preface it just a little bit, but I had a challenging childhood. My parents broke up. Actually, my father left the family when I was 11, and I didn't see him again until I was 22. My mother was heartbroken and self-medicated, became an alcoholic, and so emotionally she was over there somewhere, and my dad was gone, and there you are at 11, 12, 13, and trying to figure out where you belong and who you are, and yet you don't have the life experience. And I didn't have the parental guidance anymore, so you're kind of, everything is trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And made mistakes, did some foolish things, got into trouble, trying to figure out who I am. I stumbled upon the Police Explorers, LAPD Academy Police Explorers, because my brother joined it during one of the common things back in when I was going to high school is career day, and they would bring all the people in your auditorium, and there'd be the military is represented, and firemen and policemen and all these things. And my brother joined the LAPD Explorers. I don't know why, but he said, they told me they travel a lot. And I go, okay. And we were poor kids who were in the West San Fernando Valley in Canoga Park, and we didn't have much money at all. My mom was finally able to get a big crappy house, and we had 4 male boarders who lived in the house in various places, and it was just kind of weird. And so sure enough, he joins this, and the first year he goes to Hawaii. Second summer, he goes to Japan, and I thought, okay, I'm in. The only way this poor kid is going to get to travel is to join this group. And so I joined the group, and you had to go to the LAPD Academy for 8 Saturdays in a row in order to graduate from it, to actually be in. And I graduated first in my class out of 111 16-year-olds. Surprising to me that I had an aptitude for police procedure and work, and that I had no idea. I was kind of a crafty little sneaky kid. In fact, my family dubbed me Sneaky Pete when I was sneaky, yeah, circumventing responsibility and looking for the shortcut and all that kind of thing, because I didn't have the guidance. Anyway, so we joined, and I think that's my path. I go to college on my own dime. Second year in college, I take an acting class, and because it was fun, and in there I find that discover to my great surprise that the girls in acting class were far prettier than the ones in police science. So,
and you had this is what I was getting to, you had a pretty amazing first acting experience with a young woman.
Very nervous. It's a black box theater, and I'm nervous. I just turned 19, and the teacher comes out and kind of says, here, okay, you two, wherever you happen to be standing, you two read this, you two read this, you two read this, you two read this. And it was like, okay. And I look, and I was standing next to, my partner was going to be this young, very, very attractive woman. And, oh, wow, she's pretty. And I look down at my sides, and it says, a couple is making out on a park bench. And I look over at her, and she hadn't yet looked at that. So, like a male species in the wild, I was trying to posture a little bit so that the mating thing can start, you know.
That always works.
That always works, especially this move, I found. They find it irresistible. When she looked at it, she looked up at me, and she didn't grimace. That's a victory. I went, yes! Now, the young guy, the character I was playing, had the first line, and it was something like, Beth, we need to talk. He breaks up this romantic thing in the park. So I'm thinking, I'm nervous, and I went, I got to go for it. I hope she's okay with it, but I am going to kiss her. I am going to kiss her. I sit on the bench. I put my sides down on the ground. I turn to face her, and before I can go completely around, whop! She's on me. Moves her leg over. She's on top of me. She's kissing and rubbing and kissing and rubbing, and it's like. And at some point, not too far into it, I feel this. And I'm kissing and rubbing and tapping and kissing and rubbing and tapping, and I'm finally going, what's the tapping? What is that? And I realize, oh, she's saying, get on with it, because she couldn't break it up. She wants to be, all right? So I go, okay. Beth, we need to talk, We finally got in the groove of it, and by the end of the scene, it was okay. But I was thinking, hey, the scene may have just been mediocre, but I'm in with this girl. She is crazy about me. So at the break, I go up to her, and I say, so that worked out pretty well. And she goes, well, it was the beginning was a little rough. And I go, yeah. But it turned out okay. And I go, yeah. I think we should go out sometime. And she looked at me like a lost puppy and said, oh no. No, I have a boyfriend, excuse me. And of course, at 19, whenever you're embarrassed in that sort of situation, the default mechanism for a guy is to show indifference. Like, okay, fine. Hey, all right, no problem, see you. We got plenty. Got them. They're lined up. And then she leaves and is like, oh my God, what happened? So two things swirled my mind. One, kissing. 19 years old, and that was now my job. My job in this class was to kiss this woman. Oh my God. The second thing was, I would have bet the house she liked me, and she didn't. I mean, not at all. She was acting. And that blew my mind, that I completely believed her. I don't know what happened to Meryl Streep, but she... So, at the end of 2 years of college studying police science, I went, okay, I have no idea what I want to do. This new world is exciting and vibrant and powerful, and this other thing that I'm apparently good at, but I don't know. So, what do? I ran away. I got on a motorcycle, and with my brother, he was in the same kind of position, and we left the state of California for 2 years. We were gone, just traveling from all over the place. We hit all the states and got jobs. This is in the 70s, so it wasn't litigious. You could get a job bussing tables or working at a carnival or things like that. They would pay you under the table. It was very easy to get a job, any job, anywhere. And we were traveling we went up the eastern seaboard, and it was getting fall, so we were making our way back down to Florida to stay dry and warm. And on a motorcycle, you have limited room, so I brought this compilation of plays. And I was reading Hedda Gabler at this rest stop because it was pouring rain. I've never seen such hard rain as I did there. And before GPS, from the map, we couldn't tell where we were exactly and how far. Could be 30, 40, 50 miles away to the next town. It's too dangerous. So here we'll stay. There was a slab, a picnic table, 4 posts, and a roof. That was it, and a sodium light in the middle of this compound. We drove our motorcycles up, and we stayed there for 6 days. Because during daylight hours, it never stopped raining. It could have stopped raining during the night, but we were trapped. And the only thing really that got me through was this play. I remember reading Hedda Gabler And by the end of the play, I was leaning, and I finished it, and I got a crick in my neck. I didn't know why. The sodium light was my only light source because it had turned night. And never in my life have I experienced the loss of the transition from day to dusk to night. Obviously, if I've slept through it before, but when in your waking hours, I've never missed that transition, and it blew my mind. And the only thing I could think of was I got carried away by this book, and that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to attempt something that I loved and hopefully become good at, as opposed to doing something I was good at but I didn't love.
Yeah. And it was a whole book of plays, Death of a Salesman. You mentioned a bunch of other plays. Hedda Gabler was the last one. So that was it. That was that you started going into acting right away. Yeah. But along the way of that trip, you had so many other incredible experiences, which, you're sort of known as a guy who became a star late in life after many great character roles, and you had played a whole wide variety of character roles, including all these jobs. One of them, you were actually accused of murdering a guy, which became an experience.
Yeah, but who wasn't in their life? Well, one of the jobs that my brother and I got in Florida, in Daytona Beach, Florida, was as waiters at a Polynesian restaurant called the Hawaiian Inn. And at the Hawaiian Inn was this head chef named Peter Wong. Yeah. And Peter was the first person who I really came across in my young life. I was only 20, who was a despicably horrible human being. He would go out of his way to be an asshole. He was just this. There was nobody in that place who worked there who liked him at all. He was horrible and hated everyone. So naturally, when all the waiters would get at work before our shift started, we'd all sit there and talk about how we'd want to kill Peter Wong. Naturally. So I said, maybe slice him up in his walk and make it Mugu Guy Peter, or it was a fun little thing to pass the time before we actually went to work. God forbid you ever made a mistake. Your customers wouldn't see their food. You would have to beg one of the cocktail waitresses, the female cocktail, please, I'll do anything. I'll do all your side work. Just go in there and fix it. Oh, gosh. And they'd go, okay, here we go. And Peter responded to that. He was just a base kind of a person, kind of like someone who's running for office. I don't want to say anymore. It's too easy. But so Peter was always the kind of guy who was flaunting. He always carried a wad of cash, would go to the High Life Fronton, and he would go to the dog track and all these places. Well, it came down to the end of the season, and my brother and I took off on our motorcycles to go travel again. And about a week after we left, the police came in to the Hawaiian Inn and gathered all the staff and said, we're here to talk about Peter Wong. Is anybody here, have you heard anyone talk about how about hurting or killing Peter Wong?
He'd been missing for a little while.
Apparently he was missing.
Yeah.
He went missing. Well, we didn't know. We had left.
Yeah.
And all the waiters, was there anyone who talked about hurting Peter Wong? It's like, yeah, we all did. And they said, is there anybody who talked about him who's no longer here? And well, the Cranston brothers, where are they? They just left on their motorcycles. When? Last week. That fits the timeline. Apparently, they found him bludgeoned to death in the trunk of a car. They're never going to catch me for this.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's horrible, and you think about that. But they put out an APB on us and tried to find out where we were going up the Carolinas. And it turns out that he was lured away from the dog track one night by a hooker and went to a house, and some other person hit him over the head and into the trunk.
Wow.
And that was the end of Peter Wong, and I felt bad that I didn't feel that bad.
And that's, one of the amazingly great things about your book is there is darkness and humor and very dark humor all the way through it, and it's incredible some of the things you experience, including witnessing a suicide, a really incredible story about a girlfriend that you broke up with who just said no. I mean, there's so many stories that we wouldn't have time tonight, but it all went into your work clearly in one way or another. And so this is an example of what this incredible life experience and all its variations, all its range could contribute to. Let's watch this clip from the end of Breaking Bad.
Guess I got what I deserve. Kept you waiting there too long, my love. All that time without a word. Didn't know you'd think that I'd forget. Or I'd regret special love I had for you.
Little show.
Huh? I haven't seen that in 3 years. That's only the second time
I think
I've
I
seen
watched that and started back from the beginning.
Oh, did you?
I'm sure many other people did. You talk a lot about the show in the book, and you talk about the incredible audacity to take Walter from where we first meet him as a somewhat reticent, not particularly alive chemistry teacher, all the way to where he got to at the end.
Yeah.
How did it feel to bring that whole arc to that conclusion? What
God,
were
you're going
those
through
last
so
few
much
days like?
because it's almost it's doubly effective because you as a character are coming to a close. You know that his whole plan was to commit suicide, really, because he knew he was going to be in that room. So he knew he was coming to an end, and Bryan knew it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with it from both angles, and it was sometimes devastating. You know, you realize what that show has done for you. You know, just the sense of pride and luck of being chosen to be Walter White, and what it's done for my career. It's just been astonishing, and so I look back at that and I feel great, but I don't miss Walter White. It's kind of surprising. I don't know. I'm surprised myself by it because it was an incredible character to play from an acting standpoint, but I did it. It felt like it came to a full completion, and there was a strong beginning, middle, and an end. And I think maybe there's a certain amount of pride, you know, athletes, you hear about them all the time, wanting to leave the game when they still feel like they can produce, and they're not on the slide, you know. And I thought, that's also the case for a show, isn't it? I mean, if you could have gone another year, and then, where would you go now that we haven't discussed or that we haven't fully investigated? And so I was really blown away by this and by the ending here and what Vince Gilligan and the staff was able to create.
It's you know, again, it just makes me want to watch the whole thing again. I wanted to talk about how hard it is to do what you do. It looks easy. You make it look easy. And there's a great section. And by the way, there's a lot in the book about how Bryan got the role on Breaking Bad, your relationship with all the writers and producers. It's an incredible experiencing reliving that. But one of the striking things about the book is your willingness and self-awareness to show the pain and terror sometimes of what you're up to, that goes into the prep for what you're up to. And the particular moment that struck me was getting ready for the stage play for All the Way. Can you talk a little bit about how that happened and how it accelerated so much past and some of the choices you made that made it tricky?
Well, recognizing where fans took Breaking Bad, and I mean that literally because it opened up and kind of goes out of control, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. It became this avalanche of attention, and I was happy for that, and at the same time realizing when I knew we were coming to an end, when we were coming to an end, about a year and a half before, there was a date that we were coming to a close, and so I thought, what has happened to this character, Walter White, has blown up internationally. And so thinking from a career-wise, I said, I need to get away from television, that's for sure. I can't possibly try to introduce some other character too close to that. So I want to go do some theater. So I alerted the agency, and I said, I'm looking for a play to do in 2013 when we close the last episode in April. Well, our last shoot was April 5th or so, 2013. And my agents called back and said, we found it. It's called All the Way, and it's the story of the first year of the presidency of Lyndon Johnson. And I thought, oh my God, that guy. And wow, what a Shakespearean in size, and you know, it's just a big bite. And I read the play and was blown away by it and thought, okay, I have to do this. And so...
And did a ton of research, right? That was your first instinct.
It was,
to just spend your time.
My first instinct was, I've got to really be a student now and do the research of this. Okay, so I dove in. I spent copious amount of hours at the LBJ library and the ranch, talking to people who knew him, his daughters, his lawyer.
Reading all the books.
Yeah, reading all the books, talking to Bill Moyers and Doris Kearns Goodwin and all these people, and reading and getting in, and I was having so much fun. It was great, and we were doing the play out of town in Boston at the ART in Cambridge, and I just thought, great, I'll just bone up on all this material, and when I get to Boston, then I'll just, then I'll start in on the nuts and bolts of learning the lines. That was a big mistake. Big mistake. We got to the first day, we had a read-through, sit-down read-through, and it's like me, someone else, me, someone else, me. And I was getting dizzy by how many blocks and blocks and blocks of specific dialogue there was in a 3-hour play. I was on stage for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And
talking almost
the whole time, just driving it, and he was. To give you an idea of what I discovered, and one of the things that encapsulates the true nature of the man, Bill Moyers, the famed journalist, said 11 of the most interesting people I have ever met was Lyndon Johnson. He was a speechwriter and later a press secretary for him, and he told me every morning he'd go to the Oval Office and he'd put his hand on that doorknob and he took a deep breath in and exhaled because he did not know which Lyndon Johnson was going to be on the other side of the door. It was that volatile. So I had a lot of work to do. So knowing that, I just dove into the research of it, reading all the Caro books and everything. And I got myself into trouble. I started to realize, oh my God, I didn't do the nuts and bolts work yet. So we had 3 weeks, I had 3 weeks to learn this show. First week would be Act 1, second week, Act 2, third week, we put it all together. Fourth week, before we had an audience, was tech. Stand here, the light, you move here. So I was still I felt like I was drowning. I was under such stress, and I thought I made a huge mistake. Not only did I have the actor's nightmare, which is being on stage and not knowing your lines and feeling desperate and looking and everybody looking at you, and you realize it's me and I don't know what to say. Not only did I have that, but my walk every morning, 6 days a week for rehearsal. The one day off was not a day off for me. I worked on it 7 days a week, all hours of the day. I had a television in my apartment. It was on for 1 hour a week to watch that show on a Sunday night, just as a reprieve before I went to bed, and then hammered it again. But I talked to my wife every day when I was leaving rehearsal, and every day I was saying, I don't know, Robin, I don't know, I'm underwater, I can't do it, I don't have enough time. And she told me, she said she's never heard me feel that way before.
That's what I related to, is just, how can I get out of this? What can I, I'm that way prepping every movie. Is there a way? Is it too late to get out of this?
I actually started to have these daydreams as I was walking to work.
Of disaster.
Daydreams of disaster happening. Do you remember Nancy Kerrigan? And
Tanya Harding.
Tanya Harding. If you're my age, or okay, so there were these two great ice skaters, and Tanya Harding was jealous of Nancy Kerrigan, so she had a bodyguard. She hired someone to take it was a bat or a lead pipe or something, a crowbar, and smash Nancy Kerrigan's leg.
Try to break her leg.
To try to break her leg so she couldn't be in competition with her. I was actually thinking, as I'm walking to work, feeling this tremendous pressure of being underwater, if someone came out, now listen to me. If someone could listen to me, universe, if someone came out and just bashed my knee to a slight fracture, not like a total knee replacement, just like a slight fracture, I'm like this, it's so bad I can't do the play. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do. This happened to me, and there's nothing I can do. So you'll have to go on without me.
You're actually thinking of hiring someone to do it.
I was going, and then I'd catch myself and laugh so that I wouldn't cry, really. I mean, I was.
And you know who got him through it? Robin, who I'm going to talk about in one more second. But before we get off this topic, I'd love to. The play was amazing. Bryan won a Tony for it. The play won a Tony for it, and we got to inherit it as a. It was unbelievable. I saw it twice. We got to inherit it as an adaptation. Robert Schenken wrote the screenplay, adapting from his own play, and this is a scene from All the Way.
You cannot cut voting rights out of the Civil Rights Bill.
You can't pass a civil rights bill with it, not this year.
You told Dr. King you wanted this bill passed without one word change.
You don't go and sell a horse by talking about it being blind in one eye and got the heat.
They're going to think you're just gutting the bill, sir.
Bullshit. It's still a damn good bill. Public housing, access, school desegregation. Don't you tell me that ain't nothing, goddammit.
The party will think you've betrayed.
Well, those are your people. It's your job to bring them around. Hell yes. You're the great white hope of liberals everywhere.
Well, if I'm anything like what you say, it's because people know I stand by my principles.
Principles? Shit. This ain't about principles. It's about votes. You know what's the problem with you goddamn liberals? You don't know how to fight.
Mr. President.
You say you're the leader of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party? Then show me some goddamn leadership. Look out! Hold on, brakes! Look out! Hold on, brakes! Hold on! Hold on! What?
Floats off into the lake. It's an amphibious car, and LBJ used the amphibious car to fake people out and make it feel like they were going to die and drown. And then he would reveal that it had propellers in the back and it could float. And he would then, once you recovered, he would start to negotiate with you.
He starts zeroing in and give the Johnson treatment to you and start bringing you around to his side.
I want to ask you about one last story, and then I think we should take some questions. One of the incredible love stories in your life, with Robin, you tell so many great chapters of it, but my favorite in the book was when you proposed to her. You met on Airwolf, and then you were so afraid. Well, tell the story of why you proposed the way you did, because it's a very unusual proposal situation.
I met my wife on a terrible television show called Airwolf, which starred Jan Michael Vincent, Ernest Borgnine, and a helicopter. Just imagine in a writer's room, coming up with a helicopter is always in the denouement. It always has to be in the climax of your helicopter.
Was it a talking helicopter?
It was not a talking helicopter. That would be silly, Jay.
They had talking cars, I thought.
Yeah, they had everything. Anyway, and so if you're making the rounds, as we were as actors, in those days, all the series regulars were good guys, and all the guest stars were either bad guys or victims, depending on your gender, usually. So I was a bad guy, and Robin was one of my kidnap victims, and I held a gun to her head and threatened to kill her, or she smells pretty good though, or date her. So we got to know each other there, but we didn't start going out until a year later, when we were both then unencumbered with boyfriend-girlfriend situations, and we started dating, and it was great. She was it, and I knew it, and she knew it, and so she was like, and I'm like, oh yeah, and she. I said, I know I want to marry you, I just don't know when. Trying to buy a couple more years. Is that? Because you're scared. I think men are much more fearful of doing this than women. It's something that hits a man in the face. You go, oh my God, I'm in love. I have to go to the next level, and I'm afraid of that. And so I was really afraid of proposing to her, because I really felt that if I got down on one knee and looked up at her and said, Robin, you mean everything in the world to me. I can't imagine being in this world without you. I love you for all that you are, and would you please be my wife? So that tape was going, and I knew every time I rehearsed it in my head, I would start crying. I would start weeping, actually. I couldn't hold it back, and I went, oh no, oh no.
That's romantic.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So as an actor, I've been very fortunate that I have no problems in opening up the well and saying, well, what do you need? Let's go. What emotion? There it is, throw it out. So unfortunately, that happens in my real life too. When it's like, so I was taking a shower one day, and I started to realize the only way I can get through this is if she's not looking at me. So imagine my dilemma. How do you ask a woman to marry you and she's not looking at you? And then it struck me. I'll do it while we're taking a bath, right? I'll get in the bath, and she'll sit here, and we're both facing that way. It's a good idea, right? So we're close, we're intimate, and I can whisper it to the back of her head. And I don't have to look at her face, because if I look at her face, I'll lose it. I will lose it.
I love that you thought through that she couldn't turn around because the spigot would be against her back.
Yeah, that's a spigot there. You don't.
You're not going to turn around. She's stuck facing away from you.
Yeah. So we're like this, right? Oh, come on. You've taken a bath that way before, right? So now so it was New Year's Day, and I thought I can get away with this to have champagne and candles to celebrate New Year's Day. That's what she thought. And so I had champagne and candles and music. Everything was beautiful. It was dusk, so it was great. Everything was perfect. And I had the engagement ring. I was pretty sure she would say yes, but and I didn't know what to do with the engagement ring. It's like, oh my God, there is literally no place to put the engagement ring unless I put it on my baby toe. So I put it on my baby toe, and I submerged it in the water underneath the cover of all the bubbles. Honey, come on, here we go, there we go, there we go. Hi, how you doing? Good, here's some champagne. Good. I would like to drink more champagne. It's like, and so it's come. We've been in there for 20 minutes, and she's going like, okay, that's nice. And now oh no, let's stay in a little while. Put a little more hot water in. Let's stay a little bit more. Okay. And I said, Robin, here's her head, the back of her head. Robin, you mean everything in the world to me. Oh, and I go, I can't imagine, now I know I got to speed this up. I can't imagine life without you. You mean everything. I love you so much. Oh, no. I kept turning her face back around. She's going, what are you? And then she started to get it and really wanted to turn. She was trying to turn. And I go, no. I am looking at the nape of her neck, just trying to get this out before I could feel it. Everything's like, and would you please marry me? You'd make me the happiest man in the world. Would you please? And she finally turned and yes, and we kissed. And now I'm crying and she's crying and we're kissing. And I said, oh, now we're here. I go, oh, here's your ring. Bravo.
So, Ted, do we still have time for a few more questions? We have some questions from the audience.
Yes, I do. First question comes from Philip via Facebook. One of the blurbs on your book is from Vince Gilligan, who says, I love this book. It just has the right mixture of funny, sad, and heartfelt. If I'd known Bryan could write stories this well, I would have had him write episodes of Breaking Bad. So my question, Philip says, is, did you ever have any story ideas during the show?
No. Why? It's like he's a maestro, and he led that room with such aplomb that it would have been just imposing to try to do that. Plus, in television, you have to have the writer's room, and especially when it's a serialized format like Breaking Bad was, you have to be in that room from the beginning. You have to. We would get together, and they would get together 4 months before we'd start production, and just start hashing it out. And before we broke the first episode, they knew the basic outline of the 13 episodes, the highs and lows, where each one would go. And that took 4 months. Most of the writing took place before we started any of the seasons. So no, it was theirs.
You directed?
I directed a few of the episodes, but that's a different animal.
Writing,
you were, and you were given a gift. Like an actor or a director, when you read a script that resonates so deeply and moves you, that it's so evocative that you can't miss. You go, oh God, I know exactly how I want to shoot this so that the audience feels the same thing I'm feeling now.
Next question. Hans in Germany via Twitter says, who were some of your early influences, both career-wise and personally?
My brother was my strongest influence. He's only 2 years older than me, but without him, I don't know where I would be now. He was incredible, and still is for me. Professionally, Spencer Tracy has always been a favorite of mine. I've liked, tremendous actors all the time. Brando was fascinating to watch, always watchable. I enjoyed Dick Van Dyke so much, and just the silliness and the physical comedy aspect of it. There was a lot to like. Jack Lemmon.
Gladys Perez asks, I would like to know how many Sweet 16 episodes did you have to watch in order to get the right lingo and mannerism down for your awesome on-point part on Sweet 60 that you acted out on the Jimmy Kimmel Show?
That was this was a sketch that I did for Jimmy Kimmel Show. And I was turning 60, and he said, let's do a takeoff on you turning 60. We'll make it like this super sweet 16. And I go, what's that? And they showed me a couple. I needed to take a shower after watching it. It was horrible. But, it gave me an idea of how to do it, and it was fun. It's just so much fun to jump in with guys like that and to make. It's called, I think it's on YouTube and stuff, isn't it? Is that on YouTube? Yeah, Sweet 60th. I guess.
To start a trend.
Yeah.
Gail asks, you managed to make Walter White a not-so-nice character that audiences liked, or at least were captivated by. How do you make that happen as an actor? How do you build on what the writer creates? And did you feel the final episode was a redemptive act for Walter?
How do you make him not a likable character, or how do you make that person a likable character despite...
A not nice character who happens to be eventually not nice, but who happens to still be likable.
I think that's all of who we are. Are we always nice? No, I think that's why we apologize when we've stepped out of line. I think as an actor, you need to embrace the darkness that's within you as well. And the co-mixture, the alchemy of the good and bad kind of becomes brackish at a certain point, and it changes. And one of the things that we talked about early on was being able to explore all of him, not just to have him physically change, emotionally change, even intellectually at times he change, and have his dormant ego start to evolve and then eventually erupt. And that was just wonderful sociological exploration, to be able to dive into a character like that. And he did something that, when he told me what he wanted to do, I realized this has never been done in the history of television, to take a character as one person when you're first introduced him, and by the end, he's a completely different person. It has always been based on stasis. Archie Bunker, Ross and Rachel, right? They're Thomas Magnum. They're all the same people with different stimulus happening.
It was much more of a kind of classic tragedy stretched over a long period of time than
really
a typical
is.
TV show. It was a cautionary tale, a man losing his soul over time, but
so,
gaining his life too. Like he gained something at the same time. It's amazing.
I mean, this was all designed by Vince. Early on, he planted the seed that you felt sympathy for this man because he was a decent guy. He's working a second job to make money for his special needs son. He's depressed because no one cares about what he's passionate about. He sees a sea of apathy in his students. He's beaten down, and you feel for him. Then he has cancer. Then it's like, oh my God, this poor bastard, you know? Well, that was planting a seed in you, like an alien planting their seed inside you, and pretty soon it grows. But we wanted to plant that hook inside of you and then give you line to go swimming with him. Go on, keep drawing it out, and then at a certain point, and it's different for everybody, where that change was, where it goes click, and we start reeling you in, and you're going, no, I hate this guy now. I want to spit this hook, but I can't. And it was just his brilliant crafting of that storytelling. It's just amazing.
While coming up and struggling in the business, is there something you wish you could have told your younger self, or something you wish you knew back then on achieving success in this industry?
Almost no, because it takes life experience. Even if the 60-year-old Bryan told the 22-year-old Bryan, he wouldn't understand it. He wouldn't know how to deal with it, because you can't tell someone how to behave and how to think and feel. They have to evolve. They have to mature in it. But there was one thing about 25 years ago that happened that changed my life in as far as my career. And that was, and I would say if there's any one piece of advice that I would give any person in the arts, and specifically to actors, is this, and that is, you cannot, should not, must not think that you are trying to get a job when you're going on an audition. That's the worst thing you can do. It seems that way. I could see why. I did. I thought, yeah, they're hiring for actors, and so I'm going in, yeah, it's a job interview, right? No. Because you are giving away your power when you do that. When you go into some situation where you need or want, you are no longer in control. But if you go into a situation where you have something that they need or want, you stay in control. It's a confidence thing. It's not an arrogance thing. It's a confidence thing. And now when I cast and producing and directing, and I feel actors coming in with that confidence of, here's what I've come up with. Boom, there it is. I'm impressed. And then they say, thank you and goodbye. I want to stop them because they struck a chord and they didn't need it. They came in to act. And so the simple thing, it's simple theoretically, but it's hard to do it in practice. But if you can really think about this, if you realize that you're not going in there to get a job, you're going in there to do a job. And that's all. Focus on what your job is. Your job is to create a compelling, interesting character that serves the text. That's all your job is. Just hyper-focus on that. Leave it for them. Feel valued that what you've done is of value and really a remarkable thing. And present it to them and leave. Mm-hmm. And once I accepted that, I no longer called my agent and any feedback. What did they say? Did they like me? Are you sure they got my number? Are you good? Like, all that chatter, all that stuff, because you needed something from them. Once you don't need something from them, you don't even think of calling. I don't need your feedback. I know what I did as an actor. I know if I did my job or not. And you can get lazy, and sometimes you have to beat yourself up a little bit and go, I can't get lazy. It's about the work. You can't just go, oh yeah, I don't have time. I got to see my boyfriend. I got to do this or I got, okay. and that's what you're going to get out of the audition, right? That's the work. So there's no shortcut for the work. Believe me, Sneaky Pete, I was looking for it. There is no shortcut. You got to love it. Anyway, thank you.
Two of these are kind of related, so I'll read them both. Andy in Texas via Twitter says, what is the role of an actor or a creative person in taking sides in politics? Do you worry that you can alienate some of your fans? And another related question wants to know what it was like visiting President Obama in the Oval Office for the New York Times piece.
I think because I'm a human being, I'm a citizen, I love my country, and I choose not to stay on the sidelines. And if people disagree with that and they say they're not going to patronize my films or TV shows or whatever, that's up to them. I don't disparage anybody. I do have a criteria, though. Now, when talking politics, if I will ask, are you voting? You're voting, or you're not voting, I don't want to talk to you. You've silenced yourself, so I'm not going to talk to you. But if you vote, and you will vote, I don't care who you're voting for, you deserve the right to be heard. So let's have a discourse. Let's talk about it. And what I hope to try to do is, by talking about it and having that point of view, it is to encourage people to say, we need to find common ground here. And hearken back to LBJ, he was the master at politics. He found, whether it was a Republican or Democrat, he found the common core between the two of them, and he approached that. And he said, listen, let's work together. We can find some compromise. And unfortunately, I think in this political climate, there's such vitriol, and it's so polarizing. It's unfortunate because we hear this rhetoric about, if you disagree with me, you're trying to ruin the country. And it's like, wait a minute, what? I don't feel that way about anyone. I really don't. I look at people who are on the opposite side of my political ideology, and I know they love this country. I do. I know that. So I can have a legitimate argument with them about issues and things, and I have very conservative friends who are their heads are spinning on this, and I feel for them. I really do, because I think we're a better country when we have that exchange of ideas, when it's not just one force, but the mixture. Let's take the best of this and this, find the common ground, and build, a stronger society. Anyway, that's what I think.
Two more questions. Every episode of TV that you've directed has been fantastic, John Taylor says. Is that something you do for fun or because you get some additional artistic satisfaction from it? Do you have larger aspirations as a director?
Oh, that I direct, the things I direct. I do like directing. It reminds me every time I direct how much more fun and easy it is to act. Because
Good. I'm glad you feel that.
Yeah, man. I tell you, I mean, because now I think it makes me certainly a more patient actor, a more tolerant actor when I work, because I know the difficulty it is to direct. So I wanted to make sure that any kind of disagreement that Jay and I would have on either Trumbo or All the Way would be about the work. That's what I want. I want the arguments, the artistic frustration is allowed. You can raise that. It's going to happen. Embrace Absolutely. It. Just embrace it and have it out and be able to have reasoning behind your argument, right? What I don't like and what I don't tolerate anymore on a set that I'm leading is any kind of bitching. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't have it on the set. We make that very clear. We're here to work. We're here to have fun, and so let's do that. So I don't want to hear complaining about what time you had to get here this morning, or anything like that, or the size of your trailer, or all these things, or that there's not 2% milk at the table. You know, it's like, get over it. So that's what we have. And we had a couple disagreements along the way.
Very healthy, though, and always best idea wins. And best idea on the criteria of what's best for the story.
Yes.
And to do that, there is a kind of Darwinian survival of the best idea battle sometimes in the healthiest versions. And some people, I was joking on one interview, I was like, I hope people never thought, oh, Bryan and Jay are fighting. Because we were passionate about certain things, but every time something better came out, it wasn't that often, we were so often in sync. But when we did debate something, you know, it could be because we both cared so much, and it was always with mutual respect, and best idea wins.
This system is what I'd like to see our political system be.
Yeah.
To where we can disagree without being disagreeable, to where we can have a different opinion without disrespecting someone else's opinion.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst thing to do. So if we start now by embracing someone who has a different opinion, and just in the back of your head go, they love this country. Mm-hmm. They love this country. They just believe that the best way to approach its problems is from this way, and I think it's from this way. Okay. It doesn't make them a terrorist. It doesn't, it doesn't make them a bad person. And I think what happens when you are faced with someone who first wants to slug you in the face and then say, all right, let's talk. It's like, wait, what? You know, you need to embrace the incredible amount of different ideas and allow it to come.
Healthy.
Final question. 5 people, dead or alive, you could have dinner with.
We'll say it again?
5 people, dead or alive, that you could have dinner with.
Are these people that Walter White killed?
Oh, that's good.
5?
Yes.
Jesus, certainly. What, you wouldn't? Of course. Kim Jong-un. Aren't you curious? Right? Probably maybe John Lennon, Marlon Brando. Who's the fifth?
Aaron Paul. Probably a woman.
You don't say Aaron Paul, because I could do that anytime. Yeah. Spencer Tracy, possibly, yeah. But yeah, a woman, I think, yeah. Lucille Ball? Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Brilliant lady.
Is that okay?
That's 5.
Give him a hand. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.